Okay. My name is Tesfa Yohannes. I'm from Ethiopia, a company called iCog Labs, software consultancy, and I am also the technical team lead from the SingularityNet Ethiopian team. And I will be presenting you about the intersection of blockchain and AI marketplace to build a marketplace for AI applications. Let's start with an example. Like something that we have continually talked about today was the chatbot. A person comes to a certain market and they want to build a certain chatbot. What do they need? First, they may need a text-to-speech engine if the chatbot is going to say those things it types. That's one thing. There are different technologies that can enable us to build those kinds of, to actually change the text to speech. Acapella, Cereproc, Google, these are companies that provide those kinds of solutions. Additional things is maybe question answering tools. Maybe the previous question that was asked was, how do we, like say, when we build a chatbot, there are certain sets of answers that are pre-configured, and that's going to always be answered. ChatScript allows us to actually answer those, to author those kinds of knowledge bases so that those particular answers are delivered. We can also use DuckDuckGo to answer, hey, what is the weather in Canada or someplace? We can ask those kinds of APIs to get answers to our chatbot. Additionally, we may need emotion recognition if it's a virtual avatar. If it's like an avatar that runs and it has a camera, we may need different emotion recognition systems. For example, the most prominent one in the marketplace are Affectiva and Microsoft SDK for facial analysis. Additionally, we may need sentiment classification and text processing. Sentiment classification is the person angry, for example, for chatbots that are really in the medical community or in the consumer experience. We need to actually understand the kinds of sentiments that are being expressed by the people. So for those, we can use a popular open source alternatives and NLTK and build our own, utilize the models available, or we may use a commercial grade applications from Microsoft Azure or NLNP research centers. Additionally, if we want to actually have audio input for our chatbot, we will need to actually utilize different tools again. Now, for a chatbot designer, like if most of the time in our business, we have to focus at a certain aspect of this. Or like say, for example, for a bank, they're not really interested in the text-to-speech or like the speech-to-text or sentiment classification, but rather the question answering tools. But like our system needs to be able to call all these things to be functional. Always, like say the sentiment classification, the speech text, we have to keep continually calling these endpoints to get a whole rounded experience. And this creates a problem. These technologies are not really delivered by one person, one company, and one SDK that we can actually buy a certain service and use it to power our technology. So how do we build when the APIs we want are at various endpoints? And that's a problem that SingularityNet aims to solve. SingularityNet refers to a decentralized open market and a network for AIs powered by platform agnostic blockchain. It gives us, the developers, like power to monetize our AI applications. One of the things you noticed when I was showing the chatbot experience is most of the like technologies I mentioned there were developed by commercial grade, like successful companies that operate in that domain. But we can have text-to-speech and various libraries with the advent of like the deep learning wave. People do build their own applications and have indeed trained their models to a satisfactory level that we might want to use for our chatbot. So for example, if we want to actually find an individual's model and we want to use it, we have to actually like, we might take it from their GitHub page and use it without actually paying them if the license is permissible, but it wouldn't give the person who have developed the AI application its due financial compensation. So this gives us the SingularityNet network. It's a path to an alternative AGI, because when we were talking about the chatbot, the multitudes of things come together to actually give us more and more like tools to play around with and more tools to combine so that we can deliver and also focus our attention on the specific things we can do better and allow like the various sets of people who are working on those particular problems increase the level of sophistication of each particular software so that at the end of the day, we would have a democratized, decentralized, inclusive, and open source technology that allows collaboration against multitude of people. So this needs to have like multiple inputs from various people. First and foremost, AI developers. They need to put their AI applications not just from those companies who are behind Google or Amazon or Facebook, but rather the whole wider community to adapt it to a standard. Another one is platform developers that allows people to actually seamlessly integrate their services. Additionally, we need to have enterprise customers, because a solution that doesn't really provide a mechanism that people can reliably use that for their banking system or for their like core critical functionality will render the service meaningless. Additionally, it should be simple for end users, application developers, and needs to have community supporters. So the core tenets for developing an application for the SingularityNet platform is AI developers, AI agents, and AI users. We're going to talk about these three components and how it allows it. We're going to use a simple example. The first one is, where's the blockchain? So we use the blockchain to actually provide payment functionalities and to actually include different kinds of payment mechanisms to allow people to actually monetize their AI applications. So that's also bundled with the daemon, which would listen to the various calls that people are making to the service. Additionally, the registry. A registry is, for example, I mentioned like on the chatbot example, multitudes of services or AI applications that we need for that chatbot to be functional. That comes from my personal experience, but we need to have a registry where there needs to be like, oh, here are the popular text-to-speech solutions. Here are the popular emotion recognition solutions. Here are the popular or like decent sentiment classifiers. A registry that holds those kinds of informations and the APIs for that. The additional thing we need is developer support. We need to be able to actually call the service from command line, and it's easily integrated from our SDKs, meaning that people can easily integrate it regardless of the platform, whether it's developed in Java, Python, or anything. As long as the APIs are available, they can call it from elsewhere, anywhere that's possible. The other one is the decentralized app, which allows like a casual user to actually interact with the system. So what's required from an AI developer? We are using a Google protobuf-powered endpoint. A protobuf is a simple description of input to output, maybe the first code we saw all day. That's like we have a function called classify. That's like we want like an emotion recognition engine to work with. It has a function called classify. And like say the return is repeated face results. That definition we agree initially. For our platform, we are going to use this one. Google provides support for this Google protobuf across like almost most notable languages. So the AI developer would wrap up their service regardless of the platform using a simple API, just like this. Then all we have to do additionally is attach this API endpoint that we created to the daemon, to the payment functionality, because making our service available without the daemon would allow any person to call it free of charge. So what we want to do is monetize the payment. So we try to attach this thing and replace it, like the endpoint, with a blockchain element that would search the network for transactions that are being mined and execute the results, and add this service to the service registry. That's it. Additionally, what we need is to have an agent and a marketplace. If you go to your App Store or your Play Store or your iOS store, you need to have a certain set of like example services that need to exist so that you know this is the real deal. Because people develop for Android products because Android products have been successful. People develop Android games because they have seen previous Android games being successful. This means that we need to have AI agents that show cooperativity and use cases for this platform. So we have a couple of examples I'll show you. So we need to have examples that work in different contexts. For example, emotion recognition, image retrieval. Like say you upload a given image and you want to return a result like similar looking images. These are like commonly popular available algorithms. And what we did is took MIT licensed like say implementations or developed our implementations and wrapped it up as a service to show like the power of the system. And we have a beta of this platform already deployed. So I'm going to show you part of that now. So when I was talking about, like, say, for the end user, we need to have a curated marketplace. So for the curated marketplace, I'm going to go out of the presentation and show you our marketplace. So we are currently live at beta-singularity.io. We released this version at the end of February. So to interact with this system, if you go to, like say, for example, if you go to the app on your mobile phone, you will not be able to actually transact with the system because you need to have MetaMask in order to actually, like say, for those people who are actually versed in the blockchain technology, you need to have a certain wallet, Ethereum wallet that has a certain amount of funds, and you need an AGI token which powered this particular, like the token we're going to use to pay for the services. And so this is the marketplace. We have quite some applications here. So let's see one of the examples. So this is the emotion recognition service. We're gonna start the job. Okay, let me connect to the internet. Okay, let me refresh. So I'm going to sign the transaction. Let's say it checks whether like I have like the amount of funds available in my wallet to actually pay for the service. And you remember what the classify code I showed you earlier? It becomes here, and I can upload images from my computer. Let me go to my motion recognition service. Let me upload the turtles, and let's call it. And then at this particular juncture, the transaction executes, and then we wait for the response. And then voila. So here, this is, we're viewing it from the web UI. So let me maximize this one. So the results page, so basically for the web UI, we render the results to look decent, but like what it normally returns is the bounding boxes, like the XY coordinates for the locations so that we can use it for our code. This is one example. So this is, for example, running inference for those people who are like in the AI domain. We have a trained model, and then we query the results. Additional services like people can actually do is, for example, speech synthesis. So for the speech synthesis, for example, like we also need to sign the to actually and reserve funds to call our service. Wait for the transaction to be mined so that like the blockchain knows all the transactions that have happened. And let's add a sentence. And then run the invoke and sign the transaction. We wait for the response, and then I get the audio. Okay. Okay, I can't. Okay. Yeah. So we generate the audio, and we have like the option to view it here. So these are like basically it's blocked. So additionally, we may want to have like say quite different services. For example, one of the things we work in SingularityNet is try to actually view genetic, like in the biology domain, we want to analyze gene data, and we have services from our Mozi collaborators here. This is an evolutionary search algorithm that optimizes and finds the programs that actually that actually fit a particular distribution that we have uploaded. So, for example, for this particular service, we can again sign it, upload a data set here. We will upload a test data set that is like say add particular, like say make a particular changes to the, like say, the normal default value the developer provides. For example, to see the, like say, the particular, like say, values the person needs to know, the developer can set their, like say, documentation page, and you can see that to actually see the results, and then we can submit this result, and the analysis will start. Since this is a long-running service, for example, for the emotion recognition, we can get a result quickly. But for this, we will return a URL that a person can check the results until they are finished. So the results page is not finished, and then the person can download the analysis results. So basically, this is what it looks like. There's a natural speech synthesis. So here it becomes our next endeavor. So one of the things you saw is how do you make sure payment scales? How do you make sure payment is not a hassle? When we're working in the blockchain space, most of the time that happens is signing every transaction, signing, like say, every call becomes a hassle. And we want to make sure that we allow people to call 1,000 times without actually going to the blockchain and writing the contract into the blockchain, because that takes significant amount of time. So besides that, we're working on trying to populate the marketplace so that more people can come to the platform, and the platform becomes more stronger and robust for enterprises to adapt it. And so the more algorithms come to the studio, the more the foundation becomes better and stronger. So this is the primordial soup for the coming things, because none of the technologies we're going to mention, the single AI application, the AGI is not going to be the one that has the text-to-speech, the speech-to-text, everything bundled in together. It has to leverage the various technologies that exist at various points. And I can skip this. So we have also a decentralized AI alliance with multitudes of companies that work in, for example, moving data from one place to another in a simple manner. We have like partners in the reputation system that would want to actually evaluate and strengthen the reputation of the AI services that we have. For example, one thing we could, like the system could be gamed is a person can come and say this application is fantastic while it isn't. So how to make sure the reputation of the AI services there is robust and it's actually a reflection of the performance that those applications have shown. So there's a collaboration efforts of more than 10 companies working in that domain to strengthen the system. So this is the start. We have multiple things to offer. Check these sites out. And that's the end of my presentation. Questions?
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay. Thank you very much, Tesfa.